It's no better than when Biden was in office, and it's actually looking much, much worse. The outlook from where I sit is not great. Paul Krugman, in fact, is saying, we're probably looking at recession in the new year. We're in the pre-recession because we don't know the numbers because you can't trust your government right now. That's Trump. That's the Trump effect. Want to hear your thoughts? Rick at thericksmithshow.com. Miss any portion of the program? Podcast. And as always, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you back here next time.
You've been listening to The Rick Smith Show. Email Rick at rick@thericksmithshow.com. Until next time, this has been The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
What if you didn't follow the path everyone else takes? Would you rather make your own way or spend your life saying, what if? Life is calling. How far will you go? Peace Corps. To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or go to peacecorps.gov.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The search for the suspect behind the Brown University mass shooting has ended. Authorities discovered his body inside a New Hampshire storage facility. They also revealed he was also suspected of killing a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor.
I will tell you that he took his own life tonight.
Colonel Oscar Perez, the Providence police chief, informed the public at a news conference last night, covered by WJAR.
An individual was identified as Claudio Neves Valenti.
Perez said he was 48 years old.
He was a Brown student. He was a Portuguese national.
Investigators believe he is the one responsible for fatally shooting 2 students and injuring 9 others in a Brown lecture hall last Saturday, and then killing MIT professor Nuno Loureiro 2 days later at his home in the Boston suburbs. Perez said investigators believe Neves Valenti acted alone. AP Washington correspondent Sagar Magani reports on President Trump signing an executive order labeling marijuana a less dangerous drug.
It's a major shift in federal drug policy that would move marijuana from its current status as a Schedule I drug, like heroin.
We have people begging for me to do this, people that are in great pain.
Many states have legalized the recreational use of marijuana or allow it for medicinal purposes. Federal laws have remained stricter. The president stresses this move would not make recreational use legal nationwide, but it could change how the drug is regulated and open new avenues for medical research. Sagar Magani, Washington.
More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. AP correspondent Ed Donahue reports on the release of more Jeffrey Epstein photos.
Democrats in the House released several dozen more photos from the estate of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier, photos were released of Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and the former Prince Andrew. These photos are of Epstein cooking with an Emirati businessman, a billionaire Bill Gates, and images of a 2011 dinner of notable people and wealthy philanthropists hosted by a nonprofit group. Democrats on the Oversight Committee made no accusations of wrongdoing by the men in the photos. The release leads up to the deadline for the Justice Department to release its files on Epstein. This is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
If the Department of Justice does not comply with what is federal law at this point, there will be strong bipartisan pushback.
Also released were photos of Epstein with women and girls whose faces were blacked out. Ed Donahue, Washington.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, we'll see gradually decreasing cloud cover with highs into the lower 20s. Winds still breezy out of the northwest at 15 to 20. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 20 degrees early, rising into the upper 20s for the overnight. Saturday, trending milder, partial sunshine up to 41, lower back to the upper 20s for highs on Sunday. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 12.
At Straight Talk, we know the holidays are your time to say
yes.
So why put up with a wireless company that makes you say
out of data?
Or
no service here?
Switch to Straight Talk and say yes to real unlimited data on a reliable 5G network covered by Verizon. And with a free 5G phone when you activate select plans, someone else in your family can say yes! Available at straighttalk.com and Walmart. Based on RootMetrics State of 5G Report, United States 1H 2025. Experiences may vary. Not an endorsement of Verizon. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Friday morning, progressives. Yes, chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. And welcome to the December 19th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Of course, email me at richard@WCPT820.com and follow me on X, Instagram, I almost called it Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Substack, and Spoutable. I guess people can call it whatever they want to. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're all over the place. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez driving it home every day. It's The Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews, all of our great stuff that we have on the weekends. You guys got to check all that out. Make sure you check out the family meeting this weekend as well. One of our other great shows here on WCPT. And by all means, make your way over to heartlandsignal.com because the good stuff is there and you want to be able to grab it, send it, read it, become the smartest person in the room. And all that good stuff. So everything from what the folks are doing in the Kansas House, State House of Representatives, and their caucuses. We've got a clip from the Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara that we'll get to you very shortly, and some things that are happening with our interviews here that we've been doing. Also, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz talking about gun violence and signs an executive order. They're taking care. They're trying to take care of business up in Minneapolis and up in the state of Minnesota. So, yeah, there you go. So today is Friday the 19th, and we've got we're gonna have a packed morning as always. Our guest will include Pastor James Gailliard, who is running for office in the great state of North Carolina. He is going to be with us in the 6:30 hour. He's a member of the North Carolina House of Representatives, and so he's going to be with us in a little bit. And then our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast will be with us in the 7 o'clock hour, and we got a lot to talk about. And then John Bartman, this is a name that some of you may be familiar with, maybe not, but he is a soybean farmer that kind of made national news. He's called out the insanity of this Trump administration and White House, and of course the tariffs, and how as a soybean farmer, it's impacted his life and his colleagues in that business. So he'll be with us in the 7:30 hour. Looking forward to chatting with him. Karen and I will have a chance to ask him some important questions and learn what we can from him. So there you go, guys. That's what's happening today. Yeah, I got a little bit of Choose Views that'll come at you in a little bit. Some things to do in the Chicago area. But right now, as I said, check this out, progressives.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. My name is Brian O'Hara, and I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. First off, thank you, Pastor Sergio, for inviting us back into this sacred space here. We know this has been a very, very difficult time for our communities here in the city. The fear that people are experiencing is real. As our mayor has said, It's been sad to drive down Lake Street and to see so many of our businesses either closed or empty. It's hard to see the impact that this is having on everyone in our community. It's especially personal to me, having been raised a Catholic, to be in a Christian church this morning as we are approaching Christmas. And I cannot help but think of what is happening in our city today and how that echoes with how outsiders have been treated for thousands of years, how Mary and Joseph themselves were considered outsiders and forced to stay in a barn. That's what we're getting ready to commemorate as Christians around the world, while all of this fear is happening right here in our town. So my goal, and our goal as the Minneapolis Police, is to try and do what we can to reduce fear, to reduce anxiety, and to try and help provide for public safety and uphold human dignity in our city. We have several of our community service officers that are here in the back. I'm going to ask them to please join us up here with our pastors, because I want people to see what the future of the Minneapolis Police Department looks like. This is not the same police department it was in 2020. Our officers who have stayed are incredibly resilient, and they are incredibly dedicated to our communities. And as you can see, the department is very rapidly becoming more and more diversified. And these community service officers are here this morning because, as you can see, Pastor is getting ready to have food distributed to people who are too scared to leave their homes.
So that was Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, and that's a clip that you guys can get by going to heartlandsignal.com. We have it there. It's a little bit longer, but Henry and I wanted to edit it down a little bit. So why am I playing that clip? That resonates all over the country right now. It's Minneapolis, blue city, blue state, but that sentiment resonates all across the country. Why? Because what's happening, what he's describing at this time that should be one, it is one of joy and happiness and love and all those things that we cherish during the holidays. At least we try to, for all the holidays that we celebrate, like Mayor Johnson said yesterday and others have said. That should be where we are. It's enough to deal with the regular stresses of the holiday season. It's that's enough right there. But to have the federal government in cities causing chaos with ICE and Border Patrol, and the President of the United States threatening a group of people. He hasn't threatened Italians for their, let's just call it as it is, for historically a bad part of the community that's caused a lot of hell and havoc in terms of mob relationships and mob activity. He hasn't called out Bravda or the folks in the Isles down in Florida or in Brighton Beach in New York when it comes to their activity. But he's going to call out the Somalians in Minneapolis and make people feel unsafe. Literally because of the color of their skin. Because if it weren't that way, he would call out those other communities for their bad behavior. Because we all get bad actors in all of our communities. It's the humankind. We are bad actors sometimes. We do dumb stuff. Whether it's a young white dude, a young black dude, a young Asian girl, a young Jewish girl, whatever. We all do stupid stuff. But when you have the President of the United States causing this kind of craziness and havoc on people, it's shameful. It's just flat out shameful. He has been performing, acting, saying, talking like a racist, sexist, misogynistic swine. That's how he's been acting. Now, I'm not calling him that for those who are trolling and want to go, oh my God. I'm saying that's how he's been acting. And there's a difference in how I state that by design. So come after me if you want to. That's how this person in the White House has been acting. We're going to take a break in a bit, but when we come back, I'm going to talk about the speech from the other night. What really struck me from what Police Chief O'Hara had to say, and we're going to work to get him on, in the new year, is when he said driving down one of the main streets in Minneapolis and seeing businesses that have been shuttered. Y'all know why that's happening? It's not because of Joe Biden. It's happened because of these tariffs and the things that have happened in major cities because of the fear of folks not wanting to come out because of the threat that's coming from this federal government. That's the reason why. So, as we get closer and closer to the Christmas day and Christmas celebration and the end of the year, it's our time to step up and push back against these damn fools. And I mean specifically the GOP in its entirety. So that's a broad brush on a specific group. They all got to go, guys. And none of this cutting off at the knees, our own party, because they ain't perfect. We know they're not perfect. Our children aren't perfect. Our parents aren't perfect. Do we cut them off? No, we try to work with them and make it better. But the GOP in its entirety has got to go. And this kind of harm, and you could hear the pain in the police chief's voice, and he's a big, strong dude. But it hurts his heart. So let's make a point as we wrap up this year and this holiday season to get into 2026 and do better. We're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. Hey Progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Choose Views weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central. We're all anxious for the 2026 midterm election to arrive so we can restore some sanity and much-needed oversight to our government. In fact, it's the most important midterm election in American history, and Choose Views will be in the thick of it, bringing you candidate interviews on a regular basis. I'll be talking to Democratic Party hopefuls running for House and Senate at the federal and state level, as well as candidates for governor and other state and local offices.
I am in love with our ability to fight for our rights, to fight for our future, to fight for our freedoms, to fight as our ancestors fought. It's just our moment. This is just our time to stand up and to speak up. We can't give up on this.
If you miss any of the interviews live, you'll be able to find them all on WCPT's candidate interviews page at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That's Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, we'll see gradually decreasing cloud cover with highs into the lower 20s. Winds still breezy out of the northwest at 15 to 20. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 20 degrees early, rising into the upper 20s for the overnight. Saturday, trending milder, partial sunshine up to 41, but we're back to the upper 20s for highs on Sunday. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 12.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us. My man Henry is back in the driver's seat today, so it's good to see that he's here. Give him a shout out when you call in or when you text in. But let's bring you a couple of quick Choose Views news items on this December 19th, 2025. All right, Hollywood stars are forming an AI coalition. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence has deeply divided Hollywood as creatives weigh the fast-evolving technology's cost, saving benefits, and potential job risk. A band of Hollywood power players, including actress Natasha Lyonne, have formed a coalition to create shared standards, definitions, and best practices when it comes to AI and the entertainment industry, says a Hollywood reporter. The group, dubbed the Creators Coalition on AI, aims to safeguard, quote, humanity in the creative process by establishing better guardrails and systems. It already has over 500 signatories. Smart move, I think. That's a very smart move because it's an important part of how we get so much from Hollywood and from the media and the creatives it's good to see them stepping into that conversation. Warner Brothers wants Ellison's word in the deal. What does that mean? The board of the Warner Brothers Discovery wants a personal guarantee from billionaire Larry Ellison that he, not an opaque trust, is fully committed to son David Ellison's $77.9 billion bid to buy the media giant, according to the Wall Street Journal. The board advised shareholders on Wednesday of this week to rebuff Paramount Skydance's hostile takeover bid, claiming it contains gaps, loopholes, and limitations. Paramount's attempt came just days after Netflix announced an agreement to buy WBD's studio and streaming business. The Oscars are saying, we're going over here. They're heading to YouTube in 2029. Soon the Oscars' red carpet will lead straight to YouTube. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences announced this week that it struck a deal, multi-year deal, in fact, giving the video platform exclusive global rights to the awards starting in 2029. Live coverage of the red carpet, the governor's ball, and the ceremony itself will be offered free to viewers around the world with audio tracks and closed captioning available to multiple languages. And let's see. BP, this is a big one, has tapped its first female CEO, Meg O'Neill, to be its new CEO, making her the first female leader of a big oil firm, according to Bloomberg. The ExxonMobil veteran most recently served as CEO of the Australia-based mining group Woodside Energy. She would take over in April, with Carol Howell set to step in as interim chief following the exit of Murray Ancelos this week. And last but not least, if you are a FIFA World Cup person, they have announced a new $60 ticketing tier for the 2026 World Cup, following criticism that it may be too expensive for many fans to support their national teams throughout the tournament. Supporter entry tier tickets, quote, will be available for all 104 matches taking place June 11th through July 19th across the U.S., Canada, and Mexico, with refunds available for those whose teams do not advance further in the tournament. Cheaper tickets account for 10% of those allocated to teams' ticketing programs. So there you go, guys. A couple of Choose Views news items on this December 19th, 2025. And of course, since it's Friday, we always want to throw out a couple things for you to do. Some things you may already know about, but we figured we'd give you a couple of reminders if you're in the Chicagoland area, whether you live here or are visiting. And that's the Winter Wonderfest, which is taking place at Navy Pier. It's a way for you to hop down to Navy Pier, check out the 42-foot holiday tree. Also, if you're into the museum scene, By a Thread, Nature's Resilience is an exhibit at the Peggy Notebart Nature Museum at 2430 North Cannon Drive in Chicago. That's right off of Lakeshore Drive at Fullerton, in case you guys don't know where that is. The big bus hop-on, hop-off tour, those are always fun. When my wife and I went to Canada, we did one of those, and it was really kind of cool to do that in Montreal. That's at the Chicago Riverwalk. And if you're into dance and you want to check out the ballet, make your way over to see the Nutcracker, the Joffrey Ballet's performance at the Lyric Opera, 20 North Wacker Drive in Chicago. And you got to make your way up to Lincoln Park to the Zoo Lights. Lincoln Park Zoo Lights is fun. It's crazy how many people show up there. But the lighting, the arrangements are just beautiful, and it's always nice to see. And then last but not least is the Chris Kendall Market. I drove by there yesterday, and whatever the controversy was and is with regards to the city, the line was around the corner, Henry, on a Thursday. So that's good to see that people were out and taking advantage of hanging out there. It's always fun. And the hot chocolate is pretty doggone good. I got to give it up. I took my niece and grandniece there last year, and my grandniece was like, wow. So, guys, make it out this weekend, whether you're in Chicago or wherever you are in the country. As I say this often, or try to say it every Friday, get out and do something different that you haven't done before. Even if it's something as simple as taking a different route home. If you drive, or doing something different when you are in your neighborhood. I think it's good for your brain to say, I'm going to walk this way rather than that way. I've done something, and now this is a little bit TMI, but I'll share it with you guys. I recently started doing something a little bit different to kind of push my brain and push my motivations a little bit differently. And what is that? I normally put my pants on left leg first, Henry. I normally tie up my shoe, left shoe first. So you know what I'm doing now? Right leg first and right foot first, just to get my brain to go differently. I'm also normally brush my teeth with my right hand. Now I'm brushing it with my left hand. And I didn't come up with this. You know, I was reading some stuff about as we get older that we do things to challenge our brain and flip the script a little bit. I think that same thing can be applied to what we do on a day-to-day basis when we're getting out and about. So get out and do something this weekend, whether you're here in Chicago or you're in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Go do something a little bit different this weekend and challenge yourself in that space. But speaking of doing stuff different, y'all, before we have Pastor Gailliard on in a few minutes, we're going to talk a little bit about this. We got to do different when it comes to who's elected, who's in the White House, and who's in the House of Representatives on the right and the Senate on the right. The speech that the Orange Menace gave, this national speech on national television about, I mean, it was a blame game. It's really what it was. It was a blame game and a bunch of lies. So talk about doing something different. We've got to do some things different. And we know that. We got to stay in this fight, and we got to keep pushing back against these fools. But I just want to add a couple of bits of context to how I kind of, took this in. He spent the majority of the time, or a good amount of the time, blaming President Biden and to some extent President Obama and, how awful they were as president. And you guys saw the plaques that they put up, which is absolutely disgusting. But it was a blame game, not taking responsibility for the things that he ran on and the entire GOP ran on that they would do a better job at. And they failed. The numbers represent that they failed. And we know that the corporate media isn't going to speak to that in truth because it doesn't favor them to do that. They're worried about getting lawsuits, not having access to. Why would you want to have access to that funk? But they're worried about that. And they want the ratings for the craziness. They want the clicks. We get that. So they're going to talk about things that are going to make them look good, but not really speak the total truth or the truth that people, the full truth that people need to hear. But this is the part that cracks me up in some ways. And we ask, why are we still here? Why can't we make a change? Why can't we do something different? He's talking about everything is great. The economy is great. The numbers are all the things that are great. Nothing's wrong. Everything's perfect, blah, 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 blah. And that the people who, I have to believe this in my rational mind. He's telling everybody that everything's fantastic. But then we got these checks that are going to the military, which they should be paid more in the first place. And that the tariffs are great. The tariffs are fantastic. The money, all this stuff. But what keeps coming back to me is he said it was going to happen on the first day. All right, I'll give him the first week. The first 30 days. It didn't happen. Executive orders came flying out. But real substantive things, we know they did not happen. So push back on the lies, because we're into the last couple of weekends of the year where, like I said so many times, we're going to be with family, friends, and people where you might have those, the other day, Henry, we had Mayor Nancy Rotering from Highland Park, and she was cool. She basically said, have that conversation. She said, Uncle Johnny doesn't get to get away with it any longer. I'm paraphrasing, but she's right. So have that conversation with that uncle, that grandfather, that nephew, that niece, and push back to let them know. He said first day, and to now say, hold on a little bit longer, it's coming, wait a minute, just sit tight, or any versions of that is a bunch of malarkey, because he said first day. And even me, who can't stand him and his entire administration, will say, all right, I'll give him a month. And it didn't get delivered. We knew it wouldn't, because it just doesn't make any sense. So let me tell you, in my opinion, based on my experience, why I believe we're still stuck on stupid when it comes to the GOP and the voters who voted for this that want to say, I didn't vote for this. No, you did. Because if you call yourself smart and plugged in, then you knew what you were doing. You just don't have the courage to acknowledge that you were wrong. And if you cannot admit that you were wrong, that's 51% of the problem for me right now. If you can't admit that you were wrong when you sold your soul on how right you were in the lead up to all of this, and you were constantly saying how everybody, the left, the libtards, you guys are crazy, you're horrible, you're awful, you're all these things. You want to, protect illegals and all this other garbage. But now that you're whining and complaining, and he's still telling you to wait, and he's still coming up with this shell game or using this shell game to pass time, to make you wait a little bit longer, the problem is that you don't have the courage to admit that you were wrong. And until the folks on the right, some of which are family members, friends, and quote unquote people that we work with, whatever, until they can admit that they were wrong, that's the problem. So we on the left, proud, progressive, liberal Democrats, we need to have the courage to call them out and not give a damn about if they ain't going to show up for Christmas or show up for the birthday or show up for Mother's Day or Father's Day and all the rest. Those are just symbols. Those are just, at the end of the day, we need to call them out. So I'm going to leave you guys with that for now. We might come back to it later in the show. But for now, there you go. Call them out. Call out their lack of courage by having the courage to call them out. Let's take a quick break. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we will be right back.
Just now, another kid dropped out of school. There's one every 20 seconds. If we do nothing, 3.5 million kids won't receive a diploma over the next 4 years. But there is someone who can change that. You. United Way knows that kids who have a caring adult in their life are more likely to make it. So make a pledge. Tutor. Mentor. Volunteer to read with children. And the difference between a dropout and a graduate could be you. Take the pledge to volunteer now at unitedway.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Computers are a wonderful tool, but every day children are sexually solicited online. Protect your kids online. Visit cybertipline.com. Help delete online predators. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show, and thanks for being with us. Yeah, have the courage. Use your faith. Use your energy to be able to call out what's not happening. And I know that in a family gathering that over time we've decided, or we've morphed into or slid into not talking about those tough things. We can't talk about politics. We can't talk about sex. We can't talk about religion. We can't talk about money. Well, our next guest, or our guest, I should say, our first guest this morning, is someone that recognizes the importance of talking about everything, because we live in a world where everything matters, and we've got to be willing to face have those conversations. And if not, we're kind of fooling ourselves. Who am I talking about? Someone where leadership is a part of his brand. And that is none other than James David Gailliard, American pastor and politician. So we'll put that together. Good morning, Pastor, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT and WARR down in North Carolina. How are you?
Good morning, Richard. Listen, I just heard that you were broadcasting in Warren County, North Carolina. I was trying to put it all together. I'm like, why am I going to be on the show in Chicago? And then I caught it. Okay, you're in Warren County, so thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And we, because of streaming, folks hear us all over the country, so that's kind of a blessing because of how technology has helped what we call land-based or terrestrial broadcasting. So thank you for being with us this morning, and I really, am honored to have you with us because I know that you've been one of those voices there in North Carolina for a long time that has really made it clear that leadership is important, and leadership that you can trust and depend on is critically important. Pastor, take a moment, if you would, and kind of introduce yourself to our audience, and at the same time, tell us a little bit about what you're currently working on in that Rocky Mountain area of North Carolina.
Absolutely. And again, thanks for having me. James Gailliard. I'm native of Philadelphia, actually came to North Carolina 20 years ago to plant a church and never thought I'd stay. And here I am 20 years later, still pastoring. And I love Eastern North Carolina. I'm in rural Eastern North Carolina. Rocky Mount is a city of about 50,000 people. We're an hour's drive east of our state capital, which is Raleigh. Never lived in a city this small before. I'm from Philadelphia, did my undergrad and grad work in Atlanta. So this is really new territory for me. But came and started the church, Word Tabernacle Church. We've been blessed. We've done really well. We've grown from 14 members to about 4,000 members. And when I got here, Forbes magazine had named Rocky Mount, I want to say this was 2008 timeframe, but had named Rocky Mount one of the 10 most impoverished small cities in America. And we just kind of doubled down, started doing workforce development work, and started addressing social inequity issues, and have really seen a transformation in the community. And some years back, didn't like how a school board issue was handled, went to see my legislator in Raleigh, had never felt more disrespected, unseen, disregarded. And I said to the legislator, when I get back, I'm going to file to run against you. And I did. I went back, had never run for office, didn't know anything about running for office, but I knew that people need to be represented. And so I went back, and I was an independent at the time. And in North Carolina, like most states, it's very, very difficult to get on ballot. I needed a certain number of signatures, didn't get across the finish line with it. The Democratic Party called me and said, hey, listen, we're paying attention to what you're doing. Why don't you switch parties and let us run you as a Democrat? So we did. I lost the first election. They redrew it, so it wasn't quite as gerrymandered, and I wound up winning the election. So I spent 2 terms in the North Carolina General Assembly. I'm running for state senate now in a neighboring county to Warren County. And again, for me, Richard, and I really appreciated your commentary as I was listening before I jumped on. I think that we have to use our influence well. We have to do exactly what you said, which is we have to bring and make in vogue political conversations, religious conversations, financial management conversations, economic equity conversations. It makes no sense to me that we have been conditioned to not talk about the things that influence our lives the most. Yep. And so what I've tried to do is to create a culture where it is really in vogue and popular to have political conversations, to have public policy conversations with people. People always ask me, man, you literally pastor a mega church in a rural community, which is uncommon. You don't have to run. Why would you run for public office? And this is what I told them. I can preach a good enough sermon every Sunday for people to walk down the aisle, give their life to Christ, join the church. I've yet to preach a good enough sermon to lower insulin costs. Like, I've never preached a sermon good enough to make housing affordable. I've yet to preach a word good enough where healthcare access was better and rural people didn't have to drive 80 miles to go see a cardiologist. Like, that sermon has not been preached yet. So if you want more tools in your tool belt, man, you got to get outside of the church. And our lives are so deeply impacted by public policy. Everything good or everything bad that is going to happen is going to be a result of some public policy decision. And we need to have people To use the Hamilton expression, we need to be in the room where it happens.
Pastor, okay, so listen. I knew this. Okay, so everybody listening across the country, one of the things that has happened in my lifetime is when a good pastor or a good priest or a good rabbi or a good oman hits their stride, as we say, you just shut up and listen, because when they hit their stride, the message is powerful. And what Pastor James just said is, we can't stay away from these conversations anymore because they're too important to all of us. Policy, actually, if you think about it, even from a religious perspective, policy impacts churches because churches are made up of everyday folk that come for a sermon on Sunday and all the rest of the things that happen Monday through Saturday. So if we turn our eye away from the importance of policy as it impacts all of us, then we're not doing, what we're all called to do, whether we're in the pulpit or not, which is to serve each other. Is that a fair statement, Pastor James?
It absolutely is a fair statement. And, early on I got criticized, man. Politics don't belong in the pulpit. And this is what I would say, and I will continue to stick by this. The only way politics is out of the pulpit is if the Bible is out of the pulpit.
Yep.
I mean, and you can't, to your point, you walk into any church, any synagogue, any mosque, right, any environment, you're going to see a little sign on the wall from local government to tell you what the occupancy is in that room.
Yep.
So you can't worship without them have some level of influence. They're going to tell you how many parking spaces you need per seat. That's not your denomination determining that. That is your local public policy decisions determining that. So literally there is nothing at all we do that is not severely influenced by public policy. It would make no sense to me that we stay out of that conversation. And not to be overly spiritual when I say this, so hopefully the listeners won't take it that way, but I'm just talking about from my faith context. One of the three, I personally believe every single 100% of us are sinners. We have flaws. We have things wrong with us. I think it is a disservice to the people that we minister to and pastor to if all we want to do on Sunday morning is speak about their sins, but then we are silent to the people who sin against them.
Yep.
Like something is fundamentally wrong with that. I'm calling you out on your stuff, but I'm not calling out the guy down the street who, instead of hiring one full-time person so they can get benefits, hires 3 part-time people at 18 hours a week so that he can pay them less, not give them benefits, and then we fight federally or fight statewide about whether or not that person should be eligible to be on the Affordable Care Act or something. I mean, so we have to have more of these conversations. I mean, we're talking about foundation dollars. We're talking about how major for-profit organizations take their profit and then they put the profit in various foundations, various legislative arms. I have some very strong feelings about national players. I mean, we coming after Target, but we don't say a whole lot about Hobby Lobby. We don't say a whole lot about Chick-fil-A, and we don't talk enough about these ultra far right conservative quote unquote Christians who have really taken a monopoly on the faith, manipulated people. And we as people of faith have to go speak to that scripture for scripture, verse for verse, so that we can equip our people to be able to have a narrative to be able to combat that stuff.
Pastor James, win, lose, or draw, we have to have you as one of our voices in this conversation right now because of all that you just said. And I'm gonna cite something real quickly. I'm very aware of the ill of Hobby Lobby. I'm very well aware of the ills of Chick-fil-A, and I've been an advocate. People that know me in my personal life, and certainly here on the show because this is part of my personal public life, I speak to about those organizations, and maybe we should be, all of us a little bit more mindful of other than just the big names that everybody hears about. Like I said about Target, that example's great. There's just certain businesses I won't do business with anymore, and I try to call out what they're doing because their policy as an organization is hurting people who are my friends, my neighbors, my family, and even people that I don't know. So this comes back to something that's central to your point about we have to be willing to talk about this. I said it earlier. You heard bits and pieces of what I said. When we don't talk about all these things, whether it be in the church, from behind the pulpit, from whatever faith it is, to the highest offices in our structure and in our businesses, we are actually failing to serve our community. I'm adamant about that, Pastor James, and I know that you have delivered in that message. I had a chance to check out so much of what you've been talking about, and one of the things, excuse me, sorry. One of the things I wanted to come back to is a point that you made earlier about the occupancy sign in a church, or the parking occupancy in the parking lot or outside of or on the street, in front of the church. For this is why sometimes we take simple stuff, we make it complicated, and why I'm so proud to have folks like you on the show that are faith-based leaders, but also understand the importance of politics and policy. You can't get the handicapped sign. No church, whatever it is, right here in Chicago, one of the biggest Catholic churches in the world here in Chicago, Holy Name Cathedral. You can't park in front of that church. And how did they get that? They had to go through the city council here in Chicago to get that done. And so it means that we, in all facets of our lives, have to be willing to plug in differently. And yeah, we kind of have sleepwalked into we're indoctrinated into saying, well, we can't talk about this, we can't talk about that. And some of that's because of the male patriarchy of our society and all the other things. You've been around a little bit shorter than I have, but about the same amount of time. And we understand that that's a big part of it. But it's now time for us to change, because if we don't change these things, we will go backwards. We have to force forward. Forcing forward is challenging. It's hard. It can be dangerous. But I think it's worth fighting for. What are your thoughts there?
I totally agree. I mean, I have children and grandchildren. I feel a fundamental requirement to make life better for them and not more difficult, for them to have more opportunities than I had, and not just my children, anybody else's child. And I'm running my campaign on a very simple theme. It's called Until All Thrive. Like, everyone will not equally capitalize on the opportunities given to them, but everybody needs the opportunity. And so I think you're absolutely right. We've got to double down. We have to be willing to compromise, to sacrifice the sacred cows. I joke around with my congregation, the best steak comes from sacred cows, right? So slaughter some sacred cows. And what I mean by that is country club relationships, social relationships, divine nine relationships. Hey, listen, I know I'm not Greek. My wife is, so I was joking I'm Greek adjacent. But, you may disagree with your frat brother. You may disagree with your fraternity brother. But we have to have the conversations. And we've got to band together, I think, as a society. When you start, there is such systemic effort to dismantle elements of what has made the black community strong. And I'm speaking specifically about that triangle of black church, black civic organizations, and HBCUs. And I have watched how all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's this new rise of prominent, not many, but just enough to stir the stink of prominent black pastors who all of a sudden are so anti-Greek letter organizations. The same guys that pledged, the same guys that were part of it for many years. And when you begin tracking out some of this, you start to see their connection to conservative causes, their connection to MAGA, their connection to the Republican Party. And so we have got to be willing to use pastors as an example to say, hey, this pastor said X. Let me tell y'all why he wrong. And I'm willing to not get invited to his conference next year.
That's right.
We have to be willing to make those sacrifices.
Pastor,
and I think by and large, we don't, and we're going to have to change that.
You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and I'm talking with Pastor James Gailliard from the great area of Rocky Mountain, North Carolina, originally from Philly. And I'm not going to let you skip by something that is near and dear to me. He attended Morehouse College in Atlanta. When he said I, did some work in Atlanta, he went to Morehouse College, y'all. HBCU personified. I have family members that attended there. I have others that have, from Howard to Hampton and all the rest. But got to give a shout out because he's a Morehouse man, and that means something. For those of you who don't know, that means something to be a Morehouse man. And so, Pastor, I wasn't going to let us skip by that. Like, yeah, I spent a couple of days in Atlanta. No.
So, look, I'll tell you this story real fast, Richard, if I can.
Yes.
Freshman year at Morehouse, Dr. Hugh Gloucester is the president. President Ronald Reagan comes to Morehouse to meet with the HBCU presidents.
I remember.
He comes to convocation. Ronald Reagan is speaking. He speaks and he says, talking about how great Morehouse is, and he makes a statement that he understands Morehouse to be the Harvard of the South. He does his whole speech, right? Hugh Gloucester gets back up behind him and says, Mr. President, all due respect, I need to correct you. Morehouse is not the Harvard of the South. Harvard is the Morehouse of the North.
And what's so great about that? I remember that. I didn't attend Morehouse. I have, like I said, family that did, and I went to a PWI and proud of it. But at the end of the day, none of the HBCUs are a replica of any of the other schools in the country. I say we because I'm HBCU adjacent because of family and business relationships. And speaking of that, I didn't expect to talk about this, but I'm gonna give her shout out. Miss Mackenzie Scott, boy, oh boy, oh boy, is she setting the world on fire or what when it comes to making sure that she does her part to help with HBCU funding? And I think it's such a powerful statement, and she hasn't forgotten who one of her mentors was as one of the most influential black women that we've ever experienced. Talk about that for a second. I know that wasn't part of the plan, but let's dive into that for a second.
I love this conversation because, yes, you're right. I'm so grateful for what she's doing. I think it's bigger than that, though. I have often said, and I'm still holding on to this, the great equalizer in our nation is private philanthropy. Mm-hmm. And when we begin looking, my wife, she did her undergrad and grad work at Duke, and I'm always teasing her about this. I'm like, babe, given how Duke Endowment got their money on the tobacco fields and on the backs of black folk, if an African American didn't get accepted, it's no way they should be paying the tuition.
That's right.
Because that tuition already been paid for. And so I do think that we need to double down on creating more equity within philanthropy. This would help fix public education, as an example. I've been talking about this. Listen, if every local we call them LEAs here in North Carolina, local education agencies, we have 115 of them. If our LEAs in our rural communities, which tend to be the most severely underfunded, if we were to establish a foundation embedded within that LEA, or have a conglomerate where several of them share a foundation, and then you get the Duke Endowments, the Anonymous Trust, the Lilly Foundations, whoever it is, to pour $100 million. Let's just say it's $100 million, right? They pour $100 million collectively. Now this local rural school system is pulling down $5 million a year. Mm-hmm. That changes the game in terms of teacher supplements, in terms of resources, in terms of bringing arts back into school, in terms of, you name it, it could be a game changer. So I hope that we're paying attention to Mackenzie Scott, not just for what she's doing for HBCUs, but the power of private philanthropy if it's leveraged correct, and if we can find enough people with the goodwill like she has to be able to leverage it.
Toni Morrison was her mentor when she was at Princeton, and she hasn't forgotten some of those lessons learned. And I dare say that we would not have Amazon were it not for the influence that Toni Morrison had on Mackenzie Scott, who then had that influence on Jeff Bezos. I mean, that some people think that's a reach, but I don't think it is, because she helped her understand the importance of philanthropy, and she's been talking about that. So Pastor, in that space about philanthropy, this is one of the things that I oftentimes had these creative moments about, gosh, if we could do this, imagine the impact that it would have on the rest of the whatever community, neighborhood, country, the world. And it comes back to what you just said about philanthropy. If every business, like in Chicago right now, one of the things that Mayor Johnson is really pushing hard for, and he's catching, excuse my language, he's catching hell for it, and that's this head tax. And wherever someone sits in that conversation, what he's trying to do is get businesses to understand that they would not exist were it not for the people that make up the business. And to that end, the conversation that also I think needs to be had is businesses should be contributing more to your point, from a philanthropic standpoint, because it fosters the business case. If businesses are putting more money back into the communities that they're a part of, that they're building, then that community is stronger. That business is going to grow because it's going to be enhanced by the people that it serves and that serves that business. If businesses put more money into the educational system, not just have it come from the public sector, from our tax dollars, then everybody strives, and to your point, until we all thrive. And I know that's a lofty goal, that's a lofty way of thinking, and it's not how we've been, to your point earlier, socialized in that conversation. But I just feel that's where we need to be.
Yeah, well, and I agree, but I think we have to remember our history, right? Like the nation, the infrastructure of our nation was built with public-private partnerships.
Yep.
Like this is not a new concept, right?
That's true.
Where the government comes alongside of private industry to fix a problem. So I totally agree. The greatest benefactor, the greatest beneficiary to public education are corporations.
Yep.
If 80% of your workforce comes from a certain system, it is just a good business model to invest in that system.
Yeah.
And so we have to, I've been very critical of the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. I'm not afraid to speak truth to power. I've been very critical of North Carolina Chamber of Commerce because they have sat idly by and watched the North Carolina General Assembly underfund public education and shift dollars. We now have no income cap on what they call opportunity scholarships, which are private school vouchers. So literally, you can make $1 million a year in your household and still receive public dollars to send your child to a private school.
That's insane.
So it is insane. And the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce is silent on it. So, at some point, we have to recognize, and I've been fighting, this is something I've been saying boldly and loudly, is the workforce is so essential. And the only way you're going to get that workforce is if you invest where 80% of the workforce is coming from. It's an asinine argument to fund institutions where 20% of the kids come from and ignore the institution where 80% of the kids come from.
Mm-hmm.
It makes no sense to not fund early childhood education when all of the data, I'm a real data guy because I feel like data should take the emotion out of our decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And we should just be able to say, hey, look, the data is the data. And the data is very clear. If you are not reading at level by third grade, we're probably going to be preparing a prison cell for you. So we know the data points. So if we know the data points, then that means we back up and we invest heavily in early childhood education. So, we know all the solutions, Richard, quite frankly. We just don't have a will for everyone to participate in the process. And that's why people like yourself and your show, the work you do, is so important because, I don't mean this in a negative way. I hope no one in radio will. I tell this to our local stations. We cannot sing our way into a better life. We have to change the model of radio where it is not just, me bumping my head, shaking my head, throwing my hands up while I'm driving to work, but somebody is challenging me at the core of the things that matter most. One of the ways we're getting destroyed on messaging is in these rural communities. This is why I'm so grateful to know what you're doing in Warren County so I can promote it. But in these small communities, we're not writing op-eds in these small little local papers. We're not having these kinds of conversations on people's drive-in. Or for that 80-year-old who's sitting by the radio right now listening to us because she's already raised her children and she's home alone, we need to have these conversations across the spectrum. We need to message them. We need to use every platform available to us in order to change this conversation, this narrative.
Pastor, again, the word preach is on the tip of my tongue, so that goes with the territory. We got to have you back, but we got to hit this break. I am so honored to have had you on this morning. I'm going to be out your way next week. So Henry's going to make sure we got your best number. He's going to give you mine because if it's possible and we get a chance to high five and hug each other late next week, because then we'll do that. But thank you for being with us this morning. And before we go, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to say, if anybody follow me on any of my social media at JD Gailliard, JDGAILLIARD. I'm on all the platforms. My campaign website is jamesgailliard.com. And if you just Google James Gailliard or word Tabernacle, I'll pop up everywhere.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to ask you to do. So thanks for being with us, Pastor. We really appreciate it. Stay safe, and maybe we'll get a chance to hang out next week.
I hope so, man.
Be well.
Thanks again for having me, Richard. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
773-763-9270 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we will be right back.
STIHL. Check off the wish list with instant savings and free battery offers on select STIHL tools. Shop online or in store. Now that's a STIHL.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. Authorities say Portuguese national Claudio Neves Valente is responsible for the shooting at Brown University and the death of MIT professor Nuno Loureiro. The suspect was found dead last night from a self-inflicted gunshot wound in a storage facility in New Hampshire. At a news conference last night, Providence, Rhode Island Police Chief Oscar Perez said the community stepped up in helping locate the shooter.
We looked at financial records, we looked at video footages, and in the specific incident, it was actually a video that provided us with a description of a vehicle. That was corroborated through a tip that was received to the tip center.
Audio courtesy WJAR. After officials released the information, President Trump suspended the green card lottery program that allowed the suspect to enter the U.S. A business jet crashed yesterday while trying to return to a North Carolina airport shortly after takeoff. Retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle was among the 7 people killed, including his wife and 2 children. Joshua Green was with golfers at nearby Lakewood Golf Club.
It was way too low. Huge explosion.
An NTSB briefing is scheduled for today. The U.S. military says it conducted 2 more strikes against alleged drug smuggling boats in the Eastern Pacific and says 5 people were killed. In Romania, American rapper Wiz Khalifa was sentenced by a court to 9 months in jail for drug possession. The decision came more than a year after he took part in a music festival in the Eastern European country. World shares advanced today after the Bank of Japan raised its key policy rate to its highest level in 30 years, and U.S. inflation cooled more than expected. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. AP Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports on the Trump administration's sweeping new proposals to effectively eliminate gender-affirming care for minors.
The new proposals include cutting off federal Medicaid and Medicare funding from hospitals providing such care to children and prohibiting federal Medicaid dollars from being used to fund procedures Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says rob kids of their futures.
This is not medicine, it is malpractice.
The approach contradicts the recommendations of most major U.S. medical organizations. The proposals are not final or legally binding, but will likely further intimidate healthcare providers from offering gender-affirming care to children. Many hospitals have already stopped. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, we'll see gradually decreasing cloud cover with highs into the lower 20s. Winds still breezy out of the northwest at 15 to 20. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 20 degrees early, rising into the upper 20s for the overnight. Saturday, trending milder, partial sunshine up to 41. Lower back to the upper 20s for highs on Sunday. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 12.
A new exclusive offer with an eligible Bank of America Visa credit card is your opportunity to go from cardholder to ticket holder for the FIFA World Cup 2026. For a limited time, when you're approved for a new customized cash rewards or unlimited cash rewards Visa credit card, you're eligible for a chance to purchase FIFA World Cup 2026 tickets. Learn more today at BofA.com/cardFWC26. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of FIFA World Cup 2026. Bank of America N.A. in partnership with Visa. Terms apply. All rights reserved.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth. And you're right where you need to be. This is Chu's Views.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9278. Always great to be here on a Friday. It was great to have Pastor Gailliard with us this morning. Wow, what a powerhouse voice. Someone sent a text that said we have to keep religion and government separate. I agree with that from a principle standpoint, but we can't keep voices that maybe merge the two silent. We can't keep pastors out of politics, and we know that politics is in faith because of what he just said. So I understand that threading the needle is tough, but we have somebody here with us that's going to talk about a little bit of everything, because he's like, Richard, we got too much to talk about. We got too many opportunities. We can't let them go stale. It's Friday, and our good friend Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast is in studio hanging out with us. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. The diving into the deep, the phrase diving into the deep end of the pool is kind of what we do, because we just take the topics and go. But it's been a hell of a week.
It has.
It's been a crazy week, and we know what we're talking about, from what happened in Australia to what happened at Brown University to what happened with Robin Michelle Reiner, and then we have this fool. I mean, I posted this on all my socials that the children need to step up. Their fathers got issues, and for those who saw, I mean, I'm one of the. I got more hits.
They've
in
got
replies.
issues, though. That's
they
the
got
thing.
Right. We're trying to. We want the fools to fix the fool. So it's not. It's probably not going to happen.
It's not going to happen from inside the house.
No, it's not.
No, there will be no family interventions going on.
Unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But Karen, we were talking about this before we came back from the break, that what Pastor James was saying in terms of talking about things, we've been indoctrinated into not talking about stuff, and we shouldn't talk about this, we shouldn't talk about that. And Karen was sharing a story of some things that took place in her family and extended family, and I'll let you speak to that.
Well, I think that as every family is navigating, post-election, I mean, we're 300 days, okay? So you were talking about the day one?
Yeah.
It wasn't day one. It wasn't month one. It wasn't first 100 days. We're at 300 and and it's worse. We are worse off, arguably. I mean, I spent about $700 on groceries, getting ready for the holidays. So, but yeah, having these conversations and kind of navigating the holidays, especially because, we can avoid people that voted for this to a certain extent in our day-to-day lives, but we can't, unfortunately, when we gather, it's almost impossible to completely,
right.
So, my stepmom was saying we just kind of avoid the conversation. We avoid the topic of politics, and my family talks politics. We have always talked about politics because politics is personal.
Yep.
And we have understood that from
I never even
when
thought
I was
about
a kid.
it this way, but I love what the pastor said. That's going to stick with me for a while. What he said about, Richard, you can't walk into a church or any place of gathering on a faith-based basis.
Mm-hmm.
He said there's a sign in there that talks about occupancy, and how did that sign get there? That is literally
Mm-hmm.
so folks, take that and just put yourself in that position, whether you go into a church or not, or whatever faith-based place you go. He's right. Literally basic, down to the bone right about why it all is connected and why we have to talk about it. Because you don't get that sign. You don't get that parking space. You don't get that you don't get that without the intersection of government and religion, or government and the institutions.
Right. Or talking about things from a place of, like, if you're a Christian, if you're, and we speak about, what's happening with the ICE detention facility here in Broadview. We talk about what we're seeing again with, CPB being back here. Or CBP, I always get that mixed up. Anyway, but being here and terrorizing people again as we're leading into a holiday that literally celebrates refugees.
Like the police chief from Minneapolis said.
Yeah. So it just, to me, it's very traumatizing. I just wish that we could just catch one break here. Just have a couple weeks here where we can have some peace and quiet. Because it is traumatizing. The difference between the shooting in Australia versus any mass shooting here is that they're going to actually do something to legislate.
My wife Ann said to me, "Guess what? Australia's going to do."
Yep.
They're not going to think about it and go through all the.
They're not going to go. Now's not the time.
Now's not the time. And we should.
We're just
folks died at the hands of this.
Let's figure out how we're going to
right now.
So this doesn't happen again. And
so America, hear these words, and if you got something to say to me about it, you know where to find me. You can call. You can text. That's what being great is.
And that's what being a good legislator is to say, okay, our constituents, the American population, they're being deeply impacted by these set of things. One of them is mass shootings. One of them is because of unfettered access to assault weapons. We can do something about it. Republicans did something about it before. I mean, we had a ban. We had a ban, and it absolutely.
You heard what Mayor Rotering said earlier in the week in Highland Park. She said when we had the ban, the data once again, like Pastor James said,
data, exactly. It
numbers
doesn't lie.
It went down.
Right, exactly right. So there are things that we can do about it. We can. They always like to say, well, people die, more people die in car accidents than they do from gun deaths. And it's like, okay, let's talk about that then.
Yeah.
What do we do with cars?
We put seatbelts.
We register every single one of them. You have to be proficient in the use of that vehicle.
Exactly.
Okay. And if you are deemed to not know what you're doing and not be a responsible driver, car owner, then there are penalties for that.
Yep.
You don't get to do it.
And if you happen to get granted those privileges by a governmental body, then there's one other thing you got to do.
Get insurance.
You got to get insurance. And if you don't, there's a bigger price to pay. So, there
are things we can do.
The fixes are easy. That's the thing. They're actually really
They're very easy.
We've allowed them to get complicated.
Let's get Republicans out of the way. And see, we meaning the Republicans, have made it impossible for us to get anything done. I would name the issue.
No,
they are the obstructionist party. They are the party of no. They don't care.
We regress when Republicans
Yes.
are in leadership, y'all. It's time that we were way past time of saying that full-throated. We regress when Republicans are in leadership roles. We actually, and you can look at the data for those who want to challenge me on this, our businesses regress when Republicans are leaders of businesses. You want to know why? Because they're not inclusive to have a larger, smarter, well-educated, stronger workforce. And Pastor James just said that.
Yep.
The data backs that up.
Yes.
So come on, y'all. I mean, listen, we got to stop lying to ourselves.
Well, no, because I mean, it's not merit-based because they're only willing to hire certain people. And so they're going to be mediocre. They're not going to be as qualified because you're cutting out more qualified people that you want to discriminate against.
Exactly. And here's what
doesn't help.
Here's the big lie that's been exposed, and that's why they're working so damn hard to take away. This is the big lie. The big lie for such a long time, and Eric Grant from the Family Media and I talk about this for years. The big lie is that a lot of mediocre white men in America have led people to believe that they were the biggest, strongest, fastest, bestest. And it's been exposed over the last 4 or 5 decades, and it's been and increasingly so in the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years. And we could actually go back to President Obama being elected president, that it was super exposed.
Right.
Because if you think about all the people that are making the most noise and creating the most hell, it's the people who were exposed.
Yes.
And he said it in the clip. I played it once or twice, and I'll probably play it again. They're not all that. He's gone in these rooms, gone in these meetings. And he wasn't just talking about U.S. leaders. He's talking about globally. And so that group being exposed is a group that's fighting like hell to keep the secret, to make it seem like, to your point, that we can keep this workforce damped down, held back. We don't want them to be any smarter or better, because if they are, then they're going to surpass us. And if we even let them in the door, they're going to surpass us. And every time we have this conversation, it comes back to mediocrity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and there's so much, I think we talked about this a little bit, but there's so much cultural conditioning for us just to accepting that narrative too.
Yeah.
Just in our films, in our popular culture. And, it's high time that we take a real honest look at this and look at ourselves and say, how did I, contribute to this?
That's the hardest thing to do, Karen. That's why I was saying earlier about a lot of the people who voted for this, they voted for it. There's no
they
more.
Voted for it, yeah.
I didn't vote for this. Yes, you did. Because here's the default. If you say that you didn't vote for it, then that means that you lied to yourself back when you were telling us we were crazy and we didn't know what we were talking about. If you actually want to say now, I didn't vote for that, then what we were suggesting, telling, and trying to inform you of, you chose to not listen to it and tell us we were the crazy ones. And you went off on your own. Use your own data or ignored that which we were trying to provide you with. Did their own research, and you made a decision. So you did vote for it.
Right. Well, and, too, I don't buy the notion that, I was misinformed. I didn't know.
Karen Byrne tried to tell you. Listen, so you wouldn't pay attention?
There were people and places that you could go for accurate information. And I mean, after January 6th, too.
Did you need a reason to? That's the fallacy of this argument that it was about the economy, it was about border security, it was about
or crime. When you have a 34-count felon.
Right. So
the media didn't talk about it on the regular.
So then you could ask the question, Karen, so does that mean you're insane? Because you actually voted for the thing that you say you were trying to get rid of?
Exactly,
so there's a little bit of, must be some insanity.
You need to go sit with yourself and think about it.
Right, because you said, I'm not going to go down this path because it's dangerous, but now I live in that road. I got a house at the end of it.
Over 1,500 dangerous and violent felons were released and pardoned.
Yeah, but yet you're
the
the ones that believe it's about. So my point about that is that it was about ultimately what we all knew it was about, and that was about gender, it was about race, it was about culture.
That's right.
It was not about any of the other stuff, and people can keep lying to themselves all damn day long. But day one is come and gone. Week one, month one, 100 days to Karen's
How do you
point.
feel now?
How you feel now? You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with the legendary, none other than Karen Byrne from TruBlu Politics Podcast. Hey, Karen, listen, I got to ask you a question.
Yes,
What is it going to take for you and for me to get a center named after us, the Byrne Kennedy Center?
Right?
What
do we got to do?
What do we got to do?
Insane.
What we got to do?
What is?
Lord have mercy.
I know. There's going to be so much to undo.
That was that. We were hung out with some friends last night. Shout out to Rick and Jim and to Barb. The question was asked, Richard, so what happens? And I said, well, technically, for the next president, assuming he or she is a Democratic elected president, has the ability to do exactly what Trump did, which is appoint people to the board that would be favoring a decision to get this undone.
Yeah.
The question is, will that person do it? Because he or she might be hearing, well, you know, the media is saying this, that you're going to, I don't care. Just do it.
Just do it.
And do it because of the way in which it was done. This is how it has to happen. Make it public, not behind closed doors. This is what Trump did to F up the legendary Kennedy Center's name. Now, if it needed to be upgraded and freshened up and all that, that's one thing. I get that. But to change it under the next president that's a Democrat should say, this is why I'm doing. Let me show you what he did. Make it public.
Right.
No more of this behind the. Make it public. Say, this is what he did. This is what we put on.
All you have to do
Here's
is
their
show
connection.
And show a picture of the East Wing of the White House that is no longer there. I mean, that is like the perfect metaphor for our country right now and what this guy is doing. He is a demolition crew.
Yeah.
And the Republican Party are right there, you know, on the backhoe and the, you know.
Don't use that word because you'll get me started.
You know, I mean, they're driving the equipment that's doing the demo.
Yeah,
you know,
they are, and they're lining up to get in the seat to drive.
Yeah,
and so when we talk about and this happens a lot, we talk about how awful he is. One of the things that when I'm around people that say, "Oh my God, he's just so awful. He's done this. How can you believe?" Yeah.
I can believe it.
Without a doubt.
Did you not hear what he was talking about?
Yeah.
Did you not? Were you unconscious the first term?
Did you have a pillow over your head because you just and Karen, to what you've said so many times, it's not just him.
No.
To Karen's point, that's a great illustration. They're jumping in line to get in the backhoe to tear stuff apart.
Exactly.
And if they were about anything, if they had any guts, any strength, they would line up. They would say, listen, I don't give a damn about my being primaried. Bring it on. Because this is what would happen. We all know this by now. This is what cracks me up. This is why the Republicans are a bunch of piebacks. If they were as strong as they want to say that they are, they'd all line up and go, look, we ain't afraid of you.
Right.
You're hurting folks that live down the street from where I grew up. And I'm a member of the House of Representatives, but you're hurting folks down the street from me. If they were actually of strength, and Congresswoman Kelly said something yesterday that was kind of cool when I asked her about why. She said, basically, I'm paraphrasing. She said, because Mike Johnson is a weak noodle.
He is a weak noodle.
She said, that's the reason why they're getting away with this stuff, because he's a weak noodle. She didn't use those words. Those are my words. Y'all don't say I said that. She said that. I said that. But her description of him was right. So they're not getting anything done to help the American people, quote, like John Boehner, the American people, because they're all piebacks, Karen.
Yep. And I mean, yeah, and it's obvious, you know, again, the Republican Party is full of mediocre, less than mediocre white men who corrupt everything that they come into contact with.
Yeah.
They are liars, cheaters, and stealers, and that's the only way that they can ever win. And as long as we, and I'm not saying we, but as long as we as Americans, you know, the independent voters, the people that don't show up, keep putting your head in the sand,
Yep, you're gonna get your what's smacked off.
Or sing your way through life and not pay attention to the things that are really impacting your life. And that's why our culture, again, with our culture, we have got to stop with it is taboo to speak about politics. And even if it's like a family gathering where a holiday gathering where it's a party and everything, it's like no. That is when you talk about it.
Karen, I played sports in my younger years and I was pretty doggone good. But you know what? I ain't sitting around watching a football game for 6 hours of football. I'm not watching basketball games. I'm not watching tennis matches and golf and all the rest of the sports that I appreciate. I ain't doing that.
Right.
No.
Right.
I want to know what's happening in your life.
Right.
What can I do to help? What can what Pastor said about policy was so important and so relevant. And I get at some point I'm done talking about the Lenins and talking about the this and the
Yep.
You can't get that stuff
right
if we got jacked up policy.
Yeah. So I have
call me crazy.
No, it's totally true. I have to tell you because we lost Rob and Michelle Reiner, and again, like we could do something about substance abuse. We could actually do something about mental illness.
And declassifying marijuana to a class 3 it's a good thing, but you don't get a medal for doing what makes common sense.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, babe.
No, so but again, the Republican Party have been the party of no when it comes to doing anything really significant. No, we just want to go and say we're going to go bomb these drug boats in quotes, right? We're going to go and wage a war on drugs, instead of investing the time and energy into preventing drug addiction.
And finding out there was a chemical imbalance that maybe even Rob and Michelle weren't aware of.
Sure.
And how that links itself to mental illness. Because we're so unwilling. Again, that's another thing. We're not willing. Listen, how many times have we all said that, no disrespect to any of us, and I say us, we've got that crazy auntie or a crazy uncle or crazy nephew or niece or cousin or whatever.
Everybody has.
We all got that,
we
right?
all have people in our lives.
So if we
Absolutely.
To your point, if we spent more time and more money, less on the things that are harmful in terms of our federal budget and our state budgets, and more on the things that help people with that struggle, let's do the research and find out, are there some chemical imbalances? Is it something in our food? In our air, in our water. And I'm saying this, guys, listen, y'all can criticize me all you want to. I don't care. Maybe there's something that created a chemical imbalance in Nick Reiner that's part of our food system or our air or water. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I'm willing to ask the question.
Sure.
And then we do the research and the tapping into for millions of people that may be what contributes to their affliction.
Sure. And the Reiners, like every other, American family that's touched by, somebody with substance abuse issues. I've in my family, there's addiction. And I would say every American family,
every family does. They like to run
addiction.
Around pretending like this, that everybody that came out of the chute is right on point. No.
Right. And they did the best that they could. But if we had some, serious people in that really wanted to solve the problem, we had two parties that were serious because we haven't had that for decades. We have had one party that has obstructed any kind of progress in that arena. And so, it really, and so I say all of that to say, you look back at, it's just kind of what's old is new again, or what, and I started watching All in the Family. I'm telling you, Richard, it's the same thing.
That's why I said earlier in the week, I was talking about Rob. I can name a couple of Rob Reiner movies, and that's just because it is what it is, and he's great at what he did. But for me, growing up as a black kid, and it was this white dude that was pushing back against his racist, sexist, misogynistic father-in-law.
Right.
And the only thing that I had with Michael Stivic is every now and again he'd make Gloria cry, and I said, never make your wife or your girlfriend cry. I always remember that.
Yeah.
But he had a black friend that he was down with,
Lionel,
and he liked Mr. Jefferson, George.
He played him in the first episode. He just kind of plays with, you know, Archie. It is absolutely brilliant. And like I saw the series when it was out, you know, because we're that old, but but I was a
we
child.
Didn't see the reruns.
But I was a kid. Yeah, we saw it. Yeah, we saw it live. But you know, but it was one of those things where it really did shape my worldview. It helped shape my worldview. But I was a kid watching through kids' lenses, you know. And I really did not like Archie Bunker. I didn't think there was anything funny about him.
Yeah.
I fed off my mom's energy. She couldn't stand him. But now watching it with an adult lens, I want to watch it with an adult lens now. And so far, like I'm two episodes in, and it is like we're still
there.
We're still here.
Yeah.
We have not really progressed.
That's the frightening. That's the frightening thing about it. And ironically, in his real life, Carol O'Connor was a staunch progressive.
Yep.
I mean, you know, and the irony, the crazy part about it is he lost his son to drug addiction. And you think about that, just some of the things that are parallel and connected. It's just you blow your mind. One last thing before we go to break. This one was really serendipitous in a weird way. Did you know that Michael Evans, who played Lionel Jefferson, he also died on December 14th, 19 years ago. That's crazy.
That's a bad day. That was Sandy Hook.
And
my girl Anita lost her mom on the 14th. That is a bad day.
So we have to embrace all that we care about, y'all. Listen, Karen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to have with us, and Karen, I'll be chatting with a gentleman that I'm really curious, excited to talk about. John Bartman, who is a fifth-generation soybean farmer from Marengo, Illinois, and we're going to get into this a little bit. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Still struggling with gas, bloat, constipation, nausea, or diarrhea? Have you tried eliminating foods but felt no change? It's time to call the tummy whisperer, Renee Barish at Digestive Health Solutions. Renee uses targeted testing to reveal exactly what's happening in your gut. Gut bacteria plays a key role in all your body functions, from cardiovascular regulation to brain function. When the gut is imbalanced, you may experience symptoms that extend beyond the gut, such as anxiety, skin issues, poor sleep, or increased risk for disease. Digestive Health Solution uses advanced testing to identify harmful microbes and evaluate the overall balance of the gut ecosystem. Get insights into your health, digestion, and how your microbiome affects all aspects of your body. Stop suffering. Call Renee now at 847-207-2034 or visit thetummywhisperer.com. That number is 847-207-2034. Let's get you feeling better. The Tummy Whisperer.
Tackle the elements in style with a brand new Porsche from the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Macan. Right now, lease the 2025 Macan for only $949 a month for 39 months. Discover performance like no other when you visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $7,239 due at signing. Excludes tax, title, license, and doc fee. No security deposit required. Expires 1/2/25.
While retinitis pigmentosa takes Mark's vision, his family gives him hope, whether at the family business or at home with his wife and sons. He knows he's not fighting alone. For 50 years, the Foundation Fighting Blindness has funded research into treatments and cures for blinding retinal diseases, providing hope to people with vision loss. And for Mark, winning the fight means being there for his family. The Foundation Fighting Blindness. Together, we're winning. Help us end blinding diseases at fightingblindness.org.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. For today, we'll see gradually decreasing cloud cover with highs into the lower 20s. Winds still breezy out of the northwest at 15 to 20. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low of 20 degrees early, rising into the upper 20s for the overnight. Saturday, trending milder, partial sunshine up to 41, and we're back to the upper 20s for highs on Sunday. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 10 degrees.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, it is good to be back with you. Thank you for hanging with us on this Friday, and thank you for hanging with us all this week. We've been bouncing around dealing with a lot of craziness, and our good friend Karen Byrne, the legendary Karen Byrne from Chicago, and TruBlu Politics Podcast is hanging out with us this morning. We're chopping it up. This morning, we have such an honor to have with us a gentleman who is, he literally is sleeves rolled up, elbows deep in this fight right now. And his name is John Bartman, soybean farmer. More than that, but a guy that's out there in the fight every day trying to make some change with the craziness that we're all dealing with. John, good morning and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT.
Hey, good morning, Richard, and good morning, Karen. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
You got it, man. Listen, I use a phrase a lot about folks that are right in the line of fire, and sleeves rolled up and elbows deep, and that's your life every single day. I play partisan politics sometimes because we have to draw a line in the sand to make a point about things so that we get some stuff done. So I'm not going to put you on Front Street, but I do want you to talk about, from your perspective, first let our audience know who you are, but also, John, talk about what you've been talking about kind of everywhere right now as it relates to what's happening in your world, in the soybean world that you live in.
Well, I farm in the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I live in McHenry County, and I'm a proud Democrat precinct committeeman, and been a county chairman here in McHenry County. And I really appreciate the work that everybody's doing out there. And I just want people to know that Donald Trump is destroying our markets. Right now, we as farmers, according to the University of Illinois, every farmer is losing $100 an acre this year. And this is all because of Donald Trump and his stupid trade war. And as a negative consequence of that right now, Richard, here in our state of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, our very good governor, and I thank him very much for his efforts and his advocacy on this issue. Every agency is cutting back their budget by 4%. Because of the fact of the lack of revenue that's coming in, because of 1 out of every 20 jobs, 20% of all jobs in Illinois revolve around agriculture.
Yeah.
And because farmers don't have any money, we've got people in Moline right now who work for John Deere who are being let go, and it's a real travesty.
It really is, John, and thank you for just saying it as it is. One of our colleagues and one of our listeners and someone that's been a guest on our show is a councilwoman up in Woodstock, Natalie Ziemba, and I know she's probably listening this morning, and someone that has been a really big supporter of bringing attention to this issue. So thank you for diving right in, John. Let me ask you this question. Okay. This escalating trade war with China and the redirection of resources to Venezuela and all that's going on isn't doing a doggone thing to bring things down price-wise on the first day, as he promised. And it's certainly, when you talk about the tariffs, it's sort of like you're pulling one string and pulling another, and the middle is getting ripped apart. That's what's literally happening in your marketplace. Am I crazy in that statement?
No, you're absolutely right, because what ended up happening is that China learned from his first trade war that their number one issue in food, what they need is food. Okay, you've got 1 billion people. China cannot feed themselves, all right? And if you want to have regime change, just allow people to starve and not have food. I mean, just look at how crazy we got during COVID when the thought that people weren't going to have toilet paper, right? How crazy it was. Well, China knows exactly in their history. They know hunger. And so right now, Brazil sells $40 billion worth of soybeans to China every year. We used to have easily half of that market. We don't have that right now. And they're investing almost trillions of dollars into South America right now. They have They're building a transcontinental railroad that's going across the continent to have a new port in Peru. They're doing this right now as we speak. And right now, because of this, the United States is no longer the supermarket to the world. And we as farmers are going to be dealing with this for generations to come, this collateral damage that's come.
Well, and particularly with them investing more in these other markets than we are, we're going to lose our place. We're going to be sidelined. U.S. farmers are going to be sidelined from being able to have the impact. And so, you know, rather than, I know that there was the announcement on Monday of this $12 billion, but rather than that, just don't tinker with it in the first doggone place. Let you guys who are experts, lifelong experts in the space, do what you know how to do.
That's right. And the other thing, too, is what people who are my friends in the environmental community need to understand, that those acres, okay, they've gone from 80 million acres in Brazil. Now they're up to 120 million acres dedicated to soybean production. Where did that land come from?
Yep.
It came from the Amazon rainforest, guys. That is the number one carbon sink that we have. If you care about climate change right now, you need to support the American farmer. And we are in this fight. This is what this is about right now. We need action.
John, one of the things that popped when you talked about that in terms of the rainforest, I had on the show earlier this week, we were talking about, we had an environmental expert here that you may know. Her name is Jen Walling. She's with the Environmental Council of Illinois. And we were talking about how our wetlands have been destroyed. And I got into the conversation, kind of got in the weeds, no pun intended, about how the wetlands in Louisiana, specifically around New Orleans, were contributing, or their denigration, their depletion by the oil industry, the fossil fuel industry, was one of the reasons that Katrina as a storm was made worse, because they weren't there to offset the movement of the water, which then caused the levees to break. I got nerdy for a moment, John, but I have to say this because of what you just introduced about what's happening with our rainforest. If we don't take action in the United States in this specific area, to your point, we could reach a point of no return. I hate to be so, Richard Downer this morning, but that's a reality.
Yes, it is a reality. And also, too, talking about the good people down in the Gulf right now, we've got a dead zone right now because, unfortunately, there's been too much fertilizer that has spread throughout the watershed that's ended up down there. And the Trump administration has cut the funding for farmers for cover crops that keep the land in place that allow the fertilizer to go down the river. And it's terrible. It's just terrible what's going on. And not to mention, you guys are sure you're aware of the USAID program. The USAID program was started by President Kennedy. And the main reason why he started in the 1960s is we had a surplus of grain during that time period. Because during World War II, Europe was destroyed, Asia was destroyed, and Uncle Sam told all the American farmers, boost your production. We need it. We need to keep Europe alive. Well, they also instituted the Marshall Plan during that time period, and Europe got back on their feet. But, once farmers get the ball rolling, we don't stop.
Nope.
Okay? That's probably our biggest problem right now, is that we're too good at what we do because we tend to overproduce. All right? And so President Kennedy, in his ultimate wisdom, said, hey, we've got famine that's going on in this world right now, and we've got farmers that are producing too much. Let's create USAID and let's get this grain into these poor countries, because somewhere there's going to end up being a famine, right, as opposed to just paying farmers for this. And it also stimulated the market. And that's what Donald Trump did. That's what he's really guilty of, is cutting USAID. And it just breaks my heart every time I see those poor kids in Gaza who are starving, and South Sudan who are starving, and all the good people from Catholic Relief Services and Bread for the World who are experts at feeding these people, that would take our grain, and every bag of grain said on it, a gift from the American people on it. That was soft diplomacy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was. And for me personally, as a farmer, I took great pride in knowing that my food was feeding starving people. And I know we're sticking with this theme here of religion, and we should be talking about it more. And what you do to the least of our people, that you do unto me. Okay? And that's why we are such a great country, because we share it with people who are in need. And right now he took that away. Yeah. And you've got farmers right now in Arkansas who raise rice who are committing suicide right now. That was their market. It was USAID was their market in Kansas too with wheat. You know, they're giving us $12 billion right now, which is in reality a slap in the face, because when you boil down to it, everything that I've read so far is we're probably going to get about $25 an acre. And I can't even go to town and buy a pizza right now for $25 an acre, much less pay off my operating loans. And it's just so screwed up what the damage that he has done to our economy. And it's all on Donald Trump.
And what is the why of it? Like, why? What does this do? Well, who does this help? It doesn't help Americans. It doesn't help our American farmers. Who does it help? It's just, what is the point? And do you get a sense from, the farmers? Because, word on the street is that there's so many farmers voted for Donald Trump. You obviously excluded. But what are they saying now? What do you hear in your conversations with other farmers who are really feeling this?
Okay, and thank you for bringing that up, because I'm going to tell you something else. Donald Trump is extremely good at marketing, and he, in his credit for his campaign, when he was in a rural area, he always made sure that there were people who were farmers who stood behind him. And he actually said the word farmer, and he said things like John Deere makes good farm equipment in Iowa, which makes a pretty good sense politically. But I could tell you 90% of all farmers did not vote for this man, okay? And it really irks me a lot when I hear people say that.
Where's that perception coming from then? I mean, is the corporate media just flat out lying about it? Because the data that you're the first person that I've heard say, and Karen's nodding her head profusely, that is not the truth. Help us out there.
Because of the fact that, with all due respect, I'm somebody from the suburbs, and I've had plenty of conversations with people from the Chicago media. They don't come out. I'm in the suburbs of Chicago, guys. That's where I'm at. I can hop on the train, the commute metro right now, 10-minute drive, and I'm downtown in an hour. Okay, they're not coming out here. Okay, and that's just the way that it is. And trust me, I totally get Donald Trump won rural America, and he also won 70% of non-college educated white voters. That's the Democratic base, guys. We have lost that, and we need to get it back. And the messenger matters just as much as the message.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. John, just so you know, earlier in the show, I had a true pastor, a true preacher on.
He was great.
Wasn't he great? And I want to commend you. You got all three of us choked up here in the studio this morning talking about that real
the consequences.
The real consequences. So I commend you for that, because you understand our assignment is to talk about what's going on and come up with plans to get it fixed and resolved. So you got to know that we've got your back. I'm not going to be that person. I don't really call myself in the media, but I'm not going to be that voice that doesn't use my voice to speak about what's happening. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm honored to have you on this morning. And we're going to have this conversation again, because what you just said is so important that people understand that, folks, we can fix this, but we've got to put the right people in place. And not talking about the fact that it's a problem is as big of a problem as not talking about it itself, or the problem. I should say the problem itself. So I appreciate you, waking up our hearts this morning when it comes to this conversation. I got to connect you and Pastor Gailliard so y'all can.
Well, I tell you what, real quick, Richard, if you bring up the conversation with the mayor, please tell him to bring up E15 right now in the city of Chicago, because of the fact that the state is going broke right now. Because of this, if we put E15 in the city of Chicago right now, we would have kids that have asthma. That rate would go down, and that would help out the state's coffers a lot, and that would keep farmers like me in business right now. That would be so helpful if you could ask him that question.
I'll put it. I will. I promise you that. I've been blessed to have enough contact with him that I will put that out there. I promise you that.
For those of us that don't know what that is, what is E15?
Yeah.
E15 is that is gasoline. Okay, it's in your gas. It's ethanol. Okay. So when you go to the pump right now, it's 10% ethanol. But right now, every car in America that's made after the year 2000 can easily run on E15, and that is worth $1 a bushel right now, the ethanol industry. And if we were able to essentially add 50% to that market, that would be a 50-cent jump for me. So it's for my own personal income for every farmer, if they were able to do that nationwide right now, just on the ethanol side, that would increase our income by 20%.
Wow.
So it's huge. So, yeah, that would be very helpful. And the other thing that people need to know is that there's more than just row crop farmers who have been affected by this. There's a program called the 1B program, which is in Illinois, we call it the Illinois Eats program. And that's for farmers who raise vegetables that enable them to sell to schools and food pantries. And he cut that program too right now. And the consequence of that is that they're beginning young farmers right now who get into the industry. They do it by raising vegetables, and they're the people that you see at farmers markets. And because they had these contracts, they were able to walk into a bank and secure funding, and they could fulfill their dream to farm full time. But he cut those programs, and these farmers are going bankrupt right now too. And that's the real travesty. And it breaks my heart every time I see the Northern Illinois Food Bank saying, we need money. The SNAP program isn't here. It's not, we don't have the money. Well, we have the vegetables here. We have the food in the area to feed these people. And it's not happening. So we really need the 1B program involved again. It's called the Illinois Eats program. And I salute J.B. Pritzker for keeping that program alive as much as he can. But you can only do so much when we're not getting our federal funding.
Exactly. Right. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. And Karen Byrne and I are talking with one of these big voices, John Bartman, fifth-generation soybean farmer in Marengo, Illinois. John, it's great to have you with us, and I will say this now, as I say to so many of our guests, and having you back is important because people need to be more aware. You've educated us this morning on some things that we just didn't know about, because a lot of what's happening is your message, your voice is being squashed because the White House, the administration knows that when guys like you and gals as well that are in your industry speak, the way in which you just spoke, that message is powerful because it touches everybody's lives, not just here in the United States, but as you said, throughout the world. Talk a little bit about this sort of, I don't know what we want to call it, incidental connection between you as a soybean farmer and the Disney, what's her name now? I'm drawing a blank. Oh goodness! I had one of those.
Oh, you saw that in Bulwark?
Yeah.
That was just a nice story that they picked up on a press conference that I did with Governor Walz. It was just, we were basically trying to make a connection of inflation, and I was talking about the hardware that we as farmers buy, and because of the inflationary rate, I needed to buy some bolts and hardware, nuts and bolts, and it just drove me nuts because a washer, which was normally 50 cents easily, it used to be 5 cents not that long ago. I went into the hardware store and it was over $2. And so she was just trying to draw that comparison, But you mind if we talk about what's going on with the Bears right now in Northwest Indiana? Because
did you hear that?
It's terrible. I got to tell you, I need every once in a while I need a break, and I put on sports talk radio, and they were talking about this, and I want everybody to understand how agriculture fits into this whole grand scheme. Okay, right now Indiana wants the Bears. And what people need to realize, as I said earlier, is that Illinois is going broke. We don't have the revenue coming in. 10% of the revenue that the state of Illinois receives is from the federal government. And Donald Trump's not letting that money go. And if the McCaskey family really wants to do something, they can have Peter Goodell call Donald Trump and say, give us our money that we need right now for our programs in the state. And also take these stupid tariffs off so that we can get our export market back, so that we as farmers can start paying taxes again. And maybe we'll have enough revenue to do the $800 million worth of infrastructure that they need. Because trust me, the guys in the building trades, I'm with you. Those are good jobs to have. But we can't afford it right now. And what Indiana is doing, what Governor Braun is doing right now, is he's trying to kiss Trump's butt because he's mad at the whole redistricting thing. That's what this is about right now.
Yeah, it is. And I hadn't even had a chance. I was doing my reading and updating last night, and I didn't get a chance to put all the things together. But you're absolutely right. That's what this is all about.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and
my mind is being blown.
Is
right
that crazy?
now.
I mean,
yeah.
and this so John, let me compliment you again on something that you just did.
You just cracked open a lot.
You did, but you connected the dots, and sometimes people just see this. I mean, and this is going to sound. I mean, this is going to sound really good coming from me. As a farmer, you understand when you dig deep enough into the soil, that's where the real good stuff is. And what you just did, to Karen's point, is you cracked open a part of a conversation that people just don't. They aren't digging deep enough to have.
We have to have it. And you know, my family's been farming. My family settled Cook County. My family settled the area between Wheeling and Buffalo Grove. Our farm was on Milwaukee Avenue, and literally my great-grandfather drove a horse and buggy right down WCPT right there on Milwaukee Avenue. Okay, so I'm very connected to the whole area. I get it. And Chicago's economy is based upon food. The labor movement started because of the company known as International Harvester, the Haymarket Riot.
Yeah.
It was about farm equipment. That's what started the labor movement in the 8-hour day. And what Ronald Reagan did in the 1980s, he didn't bail out International Harvester. International Harvester employed over 100,000 people. They even made solar panels in the 1970s.
Yes, they did. That's why Carter was here.
Our.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, and he got rid of it. He didn't bail them out.
Yeah.
And so those areas in the South Side, those were proud people that worked in the steel mills, and what they did with that steel is they made farm equipment with it.
Yeah.
And in 1980, before Ronald Reagan got in there were 5 million farmers. By the time that Ronald Reagan left, there were 2 million farmers.
So are you
that
saying
was
this didn't start with Trump?
Is
that what you're saying?
So there's some history, John, that we should dig into, and maybe not be afraid of our history if we're trying to fix things for the future. Maybe we should look at our history and go, what a novel thought. John, man, listen, just put it on your whiteboard. I'm going to be back on WCPT on Choose Views because we got to have you back. Your experience, your knowledge, but more importantly, your passion and love for this area, this country, and what we've tried to do is important, and I want more people to hear about that. It's been an honor to have you with us this morning. I'm not going to keep you. We have to wrap up the show today as well. But thank you, John Bartman, for hanging out with us this morning. It's really been a pleasure.
Well, thank you guys for what you do and getting the word out.
That's right. We will. And we'll have you back when we get into 2026. Does that sound good?
Sounds great, guys. You know where I'm at.
You did. All right, man. Be well. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Wow.
My mind has just been blown, seriously.
I know.
Like,
we didn't need any weed to get our mind blown on that. I mean, but see, here's what he did, Karen. He tapped into history.
Yes, and like you said, he connected the dots. We are all interconnected. This is the thing that people need to understand.
Yeah.
If you're going to do dirty things to one group of people, it's going to affect you.
It's inevitable. You can't get away from that.
You can't get away.
You
We
can't
are
build
connected.
you can't build a big enough castle.
Yeah.
To hide from this, because inevitably, if you build a castle that's too big, what's going to happen? It's going to topple in on itself.
That's right. And the Republican Party should pay attention because their castle is about to topple in on them.
And then that's one of the things we didn't get to talk to is about the rats that are leaving the rat's nest. But we'll get to that in the future.
Oh, I have a feeling that's going to be an ongoing story.
It will be.
Yeah.
So it won't escape us. So listen, guys, Karen and I have been able to hang out today and talk and rant and all those other things. But to an end, and that is we want you to be involved in the process. You cannot turn away from this now. You have to turn toward it.
Yes.
On the other side of all this hell is the goodness that we have been hoping and praying for. So I encourage everybody this weekend, you're going to be in front of people, talking to folks around, family, all the rest. Lean into it. If you feel naked behind you in terms of leaning in, we got you. You aren't doing this by yourselves.
And the more discomfort they feel and hearing what you're saying, the better.
Absolutely. All right, Henry, thanks, man, for keeping us on the rails. Karen, thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And remember, y'all, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you next week.
If you're purchasing a new home or refinancing your existing home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Corey called to consolidate his debt and was so happy with my advice, he left me this 5-star Google review. Quote, I was looking to pay off debt, so I reached out to David after listening to his radio show. David called me personally and walked me through my options. He shot it straight. There was no beating around the bush or pushing me to sign anything. If any of my family or friends need anything related to a mortgage, I'll give them David's number because you can't get better or more honest service. Thanks, Corey. I strongly encourage everyone to check out our close to 600 5-star Google reviews from listeners like Corey. Team Hochberg helped Corey and thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call